Five Nights at Freddy's doesn't suck. I can't believe I'm saying that, but I'm saying that. And this was originally supposed to be a hate video. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, it's disappointing to me that the movie doesn't suck, because I'm a hater, alright? I'm a certified hater, you know. I woke up early on the day I saw the movie, which was Halloween, by the way. So 2 days ago, at the time of me recording this, I went to go see the movie, and I was just wanting to hate this movie. And I'm not even, well, I'm kind of a FNAF hater now, you know. Like, it's not that good anymore, but you know, I just went in, I'm like, man, this movie's gonna suck ass, and I'm gonna make a video ranting about it. And I walked out of the theater and I'm like, man, it's not even that bad. And that's honestly more disappointing to me than the movie being, like, you know, decent or good, because I wanted to hate it. You know, so I'm kind of disappointed that the movie wasn't bad, but the movie's not bad. And I'm gonna talk about some like pros and cons. I'm gonna start with the non-spoiler and then get to the spoiler section. But yeah, that movie wasn't bad, and my opinion on it hasn't really changed since I first saw it. I was gonna record this like right after I saw it, and then I was like, I might as well wait a little bit to get my thoughts in. But my thoughts haven't really changed that much, other than a few extra things I noticed, you know, here and there. But my opinion on the movie still pretty much the same. Like, it's a fairly good movie. I'm not gonna say it was great or pretty good, but it wasn't bad. It was fairly good. Like, it was a pretty enjoyable movie. It was a very fun movie. I definitely had fun with it. We liked it. I'm pretty sure everyone liked it in the theater. Nobody, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of people in the theater with us, but it wasn't like people were like, man, that was dog shit. You know, you can kind of tell by someone's body language when they leave the theater, like, ah, man, they didn't really like that movie. But it seemed like everyone's pretty satisfied with that movie. So it was definitely a fun Five Nights at Freddy's movie. And, you know, Five Nights at Freddy's fans gonna watch the movie anyway. I definitely think it's a good movie for FNAF fans in particular. Anyone that's not a FNAF fan is gonna watch that movie and be like, what the fuck is this shit? But but you know, any FNAF fan, they're gonna enjoy the movie. So, 3 things I'm gonna mention before I get into the man, what the fuck you call that shit? The fluff of this video is the story of the movie. It doesn't tell the story of the games exactly. It's more like a remix of it's kind of like a remix of the first 2 games, I want to say. It's heavily based on the first one, which thank God. You know, I was really worried that they would introduce or go into a lot of bullshit that they introduced beyond the 3rd game, but they didn't. It was very based on the first one, so that's a really good thing. But it doesn't tell the exact same story of the games. So it's got like different characters. Characters have different names, different relations to each other. So it's not the same thing, which is pretty good. 2, the movie is not scary. Obviously, I'm not saying that as a bad thing. I'm just saying it as a disclaimer. That's not scary, unless you're a kid. You know, they're probably scary then. But you know, I mean, you see the animatronics and you're just like, wow, cool. You're not really scared of them because, you know, they're the star of the show. You want to see them. But the movie's not scary, obviously. I think it's pretty obvious. But movie's not scary. Once again, not a bad thing. I'm just stating it. It's not scary. It's more just like a fun, goofy movie, which I appreciate. And the 3rd thing, I do not have a script right now for this video. I just have a list of things that I'm going to talk about on my phone. So it's going to be a very rant and unorganized blob of shitty video. So this isn't gonna be a one of those organized ordeals, basically. But anyways, so I'm gonna talk about some the pros and cons for non-spoilers first of all, and then I'm gonna get to some spoilers later on. So this first section is gonna be non-spoilers, and there's not a whole lot I can talk about without getting into spoilers, and most of the negatives I do have with this movie are going to be in the spoiler section. But there's a few good things I'm going to talk about in non-spoilers. So, the first thing I have here is the story. The story actually was pretty good, and this was the thing that I was mostly worried about going into the movie. Because, you know, Five Nights at Freddy's, it's a game about sitting in a room for 6 minutes and closing doors. Like, how the hell do you make a movie out of that? And I was worried that the movie, it was just gonna have a lot of filler, and it just wasn't like the story was gonna be a mess, basically, kind of like how the games are now, you know. But the story is actually really good. It's got good characters, relatable characters, and it actually talks about some pretty cool real life like issues, like custody battles over kids and stuff. Like, you wouldn't expect that in a Five Nights at Freddy's movie. You expect it to just be a goofy movie, which it is a goofy movie, but it's not to the, like, it does have some real world weight to it, which is very appreciated to me, because I've been waiting on this movie for like 8 years or something now. You know, like, most of the people that grew up with FNAF are adults now, or almost adults, so I appreciate that they bothered to give us something that's not just a movie made for like little kids. Which I'm not saying there's a problem with that, but like, you know, like I said, most of the audience is grown up now. If they were kids, you know, a lot of us kids grew up with Five Nights at Freddy's, and you know, it was like the crazy thing back in 2015, 2014. You watch, you know, Markiplier and everybody play Five Nights at Freddy's, and then you hear rumors about the movie, and then it gets canceled and rewritten and stuff. So we finally had this movie, and it, you know, it is a good target audience, I would say. I mean, as long as you know about Five Nights at Freddy's, I think you can enjoy this movie. It's not like, I mean, if you're like 50 and you're taking your kids or whatever to the movie and you don't know anything about it, then you're not going to enjoy the movie. You're not going to know what the hell is going on. But if you know about the games, you're going to enjoy the movie probably, regardless how old you are. So I do appreciate that. Story is pretty good. The sequencing of events is really good. That's another thing I was worried about, because again, you're sitting in a room for 6 minutes, closing doors. How do you make a story out of that? I thought that everything was going to be very forced. It wasn't going to feel natural, I guess, the story progression. But it does feel very natural, surprisingly. They actually handled that very well. There's only one thing I would say that feels forced, and I'll get to that a bit later. But overall, the story is pretty good. I do appreciate it. Now, I do have some issues with the story, which I'll get into later, but overall, I did really appreciate the story. So, the second thing I have here is Michael spends actual 5 nights in the Freddy's location, actual 5 nights at Freddy's. And we were counting this in the movie. I went with my best friend and his girlfriend, so we were a trio in there. I was third wheeling, obviously, you know, but so we were counting the nights that were passing by, and I guess it kind of does feel a little repetitive, him constantly going back to the building, but he does spend 5 nights in the Freddy's establishment. So for once in this series, we finally have 5 nights at Freddy's. Not 7 nights at Freddy's, not 1 night at Freddy's, not 0 nights at Freddy's, not 5 nights in the underground bunker that disregards time as a linear concept. Not 5 nights at trying to figure out how the hell this game works, you know, like, it's actual 5 nights at Freddy's. We finally did it, ladies and gentlemen. It's only been 9 years or some shit, but you know, we finally have 5 nights at Freddy's, so I do appreciate the detail there. And the shift did start at 12 a.m. and end at 6, which is a pretty cool detail. And actually, the first time we see Michael, he wakes up at 6 a.m., which is cool. So I do appreciate the 5 nights and the time, you know, just the accuracy to the games when it comes to actual shift and stuff. And the name, finally, just 5 nights at fucking Freddy's, like, finally, you know. Next thing I have here is YouTuber cameos. They weren't bad. You think of cameos and you're like, it's gonna be trash, you know. But the YouTuber cameos in this movie weren't bad. So I don't think this is a spoiler because it doesn't have any impact on the actual story. But if you don't want to know who's in the movie, you can go ahead and skip a few seconds. But the 2 YouTubers that were in the movie were Matt Pat, obviously, and Corey Kenshin. And I thought they handled it pretty well because Corey shows up twice, one in the end credit scene and one kind of sort of towards the end of the movie. And both of them only get like 30 or 40 seconds. Corey's is a bit longer than Matt Pat's, but they're just there for, like, you know, just a cameo, like an actual cameo. They don't have any purpose in the story. So I did appreciate that. You know, it's basically just like, oh, hey, that guy. And whenever Matt Pat showed up, my friend clapped so damn loud. it scared the shit out of me. But I'm not gonna do it so you guys don't go deaf. But he clapped like right next to me, right in my ear. I was like, "It's Matt Pat," and I'm like, Jesus Christ. But it is just a cool cameo to see them there. But I think they handled it very well. So it was odd not seeing Markiplier in there. I heard he was supposed to be in the movie, but I didn't like the 2 cameos that there were. So the next thing is fan service. Fan service can be a negative thing. I see people complain about it a lot, but I didn't like it in this movie. The previous mentioned Five Nights in the actual building, waking up at 6 a.m. Michael at the start of the movie. Dream Theory is actually like the plot of the movie. Actually, I'm not saying the whole movie is a dream. Thank God, thank God. But Dream Theory is a big just the main plot of the story. Let's see, they had a "It's Me," I think, on like a wall or like a locker or something. It had "It's Me" written on it. They had the original Five Nights at Freddy's in one poster. Balloon Boy was there, which I'll talk about him later. The shift starting at 12 and ending at 6, like I mentioned. There wasn't a phone call, which I thought was kind of weird. It was just like that training tape in the trailer, but it wasn't actual phone call. I was really expecting a hello, but they didn't do that. But I did think there was a decent amount of fan service in the movie. Not too much to make it just like straight AIDS, but it was a decent amount to like, hey, that thing, so I did appreciate it. So the next thing is animatronic screen time. I do think that the animatronics have a decent amount of screen time, or actually a good amount of screen time. And they do show the kids' spirits a lot, which I'll get into that later. But the actual animatronics themselves have good screen time. It's not like they only show up at the end of the movie, or, well, I guess one of them does, but I'll talk about that later again. But they do have, and it does take a while to build up to them, which I'll talk about that more later as well. But once they're actually on screen, they actually have a decent amount of stuff to do, and they do have some goofy scenes. It's kind of like a mix of goofy scenes and horror scenes. So I do appreciate the screen time they had. It wasn't like they were in the movie the whole time, but it wasn't like they were hardly in the movie either. Like, you do get a good amount of animatronic, so I do appreciate that. So another thing, this is a pretty small thing, I guess. Well, I mean, it's a small thing, and like it doesn't really make the movie better, but it's a pretty big thing, and if it was bad, the movie would have been way worse. But the animatronic designs are actually really good, and obviously they're basically copy and pasted from FNAF 1, which I'm perfectly fine with, because FNAF 1 in my opinion has the best designs. But I've seen people complain about like the actual animatronics they have. I'll probably put some screenshots up right now of how their arms kind of look weird, and how like the actual suits for the actors look more accurate than the animatronics. But I knew that wasn't going to be an issue in the movie, because you can just hide the arm gaps and stuff just by lighting and camera detail and stuff like that. So I knew that wasn't going to be an issue. There's never really a point in the movie where you're like, ugh, they look bad, it is fairly good designs. I love it. I love the designs in the movie. Perfect to FNAF 1. Springtrap's design was straight heat. Like, well, I mean, I guess it was Spring Bonnet. I don't know if you call him Springtrap or Spring Bonnet in this movie, but he was fire. Golden Freddy was definitely the only one that I had an issue with, which I'll talk about him more later. I will grill the shit out of him later. But everyone else aside from Golden Freddy had a pretty good design, I'll say that. Alright, so the next thing I have is they had a focus on the actual children, the spirits of the children in the suits. And this wasn't something I was expecting, and something they've never really done before. Cassidy is obviously an important character in the story, but they never really focused individually on like the main kids, they never really had any character going on. But in this movie, you actually do see them as kids. They're ghosts, but I'm going to try not to spoil anything just yet. But you do see them as kids a decent amount of time, and they do focus on them a lot, which I think was very interesting. It's definitely unique. So So they're not just like robots. Like you do actually get to see the kid personality of them and stuff. And I'll talk about more of that in detail later. It's a good and bad thing, but I do appreciate just being able to have the kids there and have their own story. Basically, I do appreciate that. So a thing I really want to talk about is the red eyes. Now, I'm pretty sure anyone over the age of 12 is gonna see the red eyes in the trailer and think it's cringe. You know, as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh my god, this movie is done for. This movie is gonna be a pile of shite. But they definitely did tone it back in the movie. There is one scene with Foxy where it's the one where he's looking around in the arcade machine section. I think it's in the trailer, but it does look how it does look in the trailer, like bright red. But the rest of the movie, it's more like a light orange mostly. So it definitely did cut back the red eyes. I mean, I still would prefer if they just used the black and white eyes from the original game. Those definitely look way more scarier, but if they're not going to get rid of the red eyes, I appreciate the compromise and just making it like way lighter. Not really as, not bright red, so it's not as cringe. I didn't see it in the movie and think, oh god, aside from that Foxy scene where I saw it and I was like, eh. But the rest of the movie, it's more like a light orange kind of color, and it looks pretty good. Well, I mean, it looks fine for what it is. It's not like ew. So I was definitely worried about that going into the movie, but I think they handled it pretty well. So next thing I'm going to talk about is Michael, and obviously the main character in the movie, but he is fire. Like, he's a really good character. I do appreciate his story going on. It's kind of hard to describe, but he's a pretty relatable character. Like, he's got a lot of issues going on. He's kind of like Spider-Man in the way that he's just taking L's. Like, the whole movie he's taking L's. He's trying to do better for his sister, and I'll talk about her more later, but he does have a good like sibling relationship with her, and how they they care about each other. But sibling in a way, like, you're not gonna show it because it's your sibling, so he's like struggling to get a job, and that's the reason he's working at Freddy's. He is kind of stupid in the movie, I ain't gonna lie. Like, he does do some stupid things or questionable things, but overall he's a pretty good character. I really like his character. He does have some emotional scenes. His struggle is like sympathetic. Like, I can sympathize with his struggle, basically. Like I said, he's like Peter Parker. He just takes L's the whole movie, until like the very end, where he finally catches a break. But the rest of the movie is just taking the L's, and it's kind of sad, I guess. But he's a really cool character. I did really like how they handled him, because I was kind of worried how they would do it, because Michael is just like, in the games, he's just a guy that goes around doing good things, and he doesn't have much character aside from that creepy monologue he did of like, I'm going to come find you. But other than that, like, he doesn't really have any character to him. So I appreciate what they did for him in this movie. He feels like a very grounded reality character. No, he doesn't get scooped, thank god. He doesn't turn into a robot. He's just a regular person doing regular person things. That was a bad description, but very solid character. I really liked him. He was definitely probably my favorite part of the movie. Alright, so I'm going to try and rapid fire these next few things. So the next thing I got here is gore. The movie obviously isn't going to be super gory and bloody and stuff, but it does have pretty decent gore. There are a few times where you get to see someone's face get mangled, or see some blood after someone gets killed or something. Like, it's not going to be a rated R movie, obviously, but it does have it has more than what I was expecting. I thought that it was just going to have nothing, but it does have some blood to it. Of course, I wish there was a little bit more, but for what it was, I do appreciate the amount of blood there was. Perfect runtime. I thought the runtime was really good. I was really worried. I saw the movie was going to be an hour and 50 minutes, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, this movie is going to be filler. Like, 90% of this movie is going to be filler. But the runtime actually is pretty good. It doesn't feel like the movie is dragging its feet. It doesn't feel like nothing's really going on, and it doesn't feel like it's going too fast either. I think the runtime was good, and I think the pacing was good. The acting was good, I think. I mean, I'm not really, I don't really analyze acting unless it's like horrendous, or really good, but I think the acting was pretty good. the movie does pull off being cheap, and that's another thing I was worried about. Obviously, we know this movie is cheap, but there's only a few moments in it where I noticed it looked cheap. So the movie does do a pretty good job of being cheap, and the rest of the time it does look like a high production like film. So it's not like it looks cheap and shitty all the whole time. It's actually a fairly well made movie. That was one of my biggest concerns about it, but they handled it pretty well. There was only I remember one scene with the cupcake where it looked really cheap and shitty, and it was towards the end of the movie. But other than that, it looked pretty good. So, gonna get into some bad things here, and once again, I can't really talk about these without getting the spoilers, so I'm just gonna do surface level information, and then I'll get more into it once I get to the spoiler section. So, cons. The ending was pretty disappointing. They never really show an aftermath for the animatronics mostly. And I'll get more into that later, but the ending was kind of really anticlimactic, I guess. Pretty disappointing. I wouldn't say it was flat out bad, but it wasn't what you would think. There was a major story plot line towards the end, and it has something to deal with the climax or the ending, I guess. It doesn't really make any sense. It's pretty disappointing as well. William Afton, pretty trash, I'm not gonna lie. I'll get more into detail on him later. Golden Freddy was dog shit, and I say that with him being my favorite character in this whole series. He was ass in this movie. I'll touch on more later. This is gonna sound really bad, but there was hardly any child murder or really no child murder in this movie. And I'm not saying I want to go see that, but it was definitely noticeable. I'm not saying I want to see it on screen, but you could at least have it off screen allude to it. They do show children getting kidnapped, which I'll talk about later as well, but they never show any children getting murdered. It's just all right, they're dead already. So, and that's more in line with William Afton and him being disappointing. And I'll talk about him later, but he really only shows up for the start and end of the movie, and I'm not even joking about that. He gets 5 minutes of screen time at the start, 5 minutes of screen time at the end, done, boom. So that's more of an issue with William. I wish they had more flashback scenes with him, or him being more involved in the story, which I'll talk about more later. And the next thing, the secret animatronic. So my friend told me that there's gonna be a secret animatronic, so I'm not sure. I'm guessing this was widely available information that there was gonna be a secret animatronic. I'm not gonna say who it is or who it isn't just yet. I'll talk about who it isn't later on, but all I'll say here is it's not even an animatronic. It's just a suit that's broken up a little bit, and it's pretty disappointing. I'm not gonna lie, bro. They were talking about a secret animatronic. I'm ooh, it's gotta be this guy, it's gotta be that guy, and then it's none of them. It's just it's not even. Well, I'm not gonna say it, but it's super disappointing. But anyways, that's all I got from the non-spoiler section. So the rest of these will be spoilers. Alright, warning. Rest of these will be spoilers. So, gonna get into the negatives here first. Garrett. Now, if you haven't seen the movie yet, you're probably scratching your head. Who the fuck is Garrett? I was wondering the same thing. He's Michael's brother, so I'm assuming he's supposed to be a stand-in for the crying child. And he's a big, like I talked about Dream Theory, he's the big part of the movie. Basically, Michael is going into his dreams to find out who kidnapped his brother, because he was there and watched him get kidnapped, but he didn't quite see who did it. And he was a big part, he was, Michael's main motivation. And he gets his only screen time is getting kidnapped, which that's kind of funny, but he's not important to the story, even though he's a central character. So I thought the buildup was going to be that he was going to be Golden Freddy, but no, he's actually none of the animatronics, and he's never seen outside of being kidnapped. So I guess William just killed him and then moved on. This kid is never mentioned outside of getting kidnapped, so he was pretty disappointing. Next thing here, ending for the kids, and this is about not seeing the aftermath of the animatronics. So William does get spring locked, and then you kind of see them watch it happen, and then they drag him off, but that's about it. You do see them watch him like struggle towards the end of the movie, and that's it. You never really see what happens to him after that, and it just kind of feels off. Like the aftermath you do see is for Michael, his sister, and Vanessa, and you see, you know, William turn a Springtrap. But that's it. You don't really know what the kids are doing, or you know what they're, you know, what's going on. So I thought that was odd. And another thing was that plotline I mentioned earlier, the one with William and not making any sense, and you know, with the kids. So basically, the kids are set up to be like evil, and then you figure out later that it's William that's controlling them somehow. And basically the story is he made a drawing, I guess it was him that made the drawing, of him in the rabbit suit holding hands with the kids, and then they think he's their friend for some reason. And then Michael's sister Abby, she draws a picture of what actually happened was him killing them. And then they just switch teams and then jump them. They don't even jump him, but like, this villain is literally defeated by a fucking crayon drawing. I'm not even making that up, dude. But, oh my god, it's so stupid. Like, how do you mind control someone with a crayon drawing? And the movie explains it when the movie doesn't explain it, but the bare minimum you get is like, they don't remember what happened to them somehow, even though they got murdered. Like, you would think your memory would go up until you die, so they should remember him killing them, but for some reason they don't. So, stupid movie logic. But it basically just turns out they're like, oh yeah, William's controlling them, and then they swap teams after they see a crayon drawing and then kill him. And it was pretty disappointing. I think see, the thing is, like, they were setting up the kids to be evil, and that was kind of like I thought that's what they were going for before they introduced the mind control. And I really wish they just picked one, because they kind of don't really pick either. They don't really have William mind controlling, but they don't really have the kids be evil either. I would prefer if it was just the kids being evil, 1, or 2, William was actually in the movie more, and you can actually see him doing stuff. Because like I said, he's only in the movie at the start and the end. So it would be way better if he was like on the sidelines the whole movie, actually doing stuff and contributing to shit. But he's not. So, AIDS, I guess. Yeah, pretty bullshit, I gotta say. But moving on. William Afton. So, like I said, at the start of the movie for a few minutes, at the end of the movie for a few minutes, you don't really know why he's doing anything. I mean, it's basically just like the games. He's basically killing for no reason. You don't really know what the fuck he's doing, why he's doing it, why he's here. But basically, he walks out. You see him at the end, and you see him walk out with a spring Bonnie suit, and it looks fire. By the way, I'm not gonna shit on that. It looks straight heat. But basically, he steps out, and he kicks Michael around for a few minutes talking shit, and then he dies. He dies to the cupcake. The animatronics don't even jump him. They just like, Chica just throws the cupcake at him and then one-shots him. And he doesn't even fight back either. He doesn't like try to fight them or anything. He just hurls insults at him. And then they die. And then he dies. It's like, oh my god, this is so stupid. So I really wish he was just in the movie more and he had a reason for doing stuff. Because you don't know, like I said, you don't know his motivation or why he's doing anything. He's just doing it. And also, he's the one that's hiring the people to work the night shift. And then having the animatronics kill them. So, why are you hiring people to work at this place and just killing them off anyway? That doesn't make any sense. Like, what's the point? You're not gonna have people taking a job if they know every security guard before them got killed. But whatever. Anyways. The opening, the opening scene. Another thing I thought was really weird. So the movie opens with the previous guard before Michael getting killed, but it never explains who that is. And he's never mentioned again. Like, no remains, no body, no nothing. He just dies, and it's kind of like, I mean, it's kind of cool to just throw you in there with the shit going, you know, shit hitting the fan immediately, but it just kind of feels forced, or like, not forced, but like, just kind of thrown in there. It doesn't have an effect on the rest of the movie. It just shows him getting stuffed in the suit, which getting stuffed, they don't actually get stuffed in the suit, they just have like this Freddy mask with razor blades and it just put on their head, which is pretty dumb, honestly, but whatever. So I thought the opening scene was good, but it wasn't like connected to the rest of the story, which I thought was weird. Vanessa, once again, I think she's kind of in between where she's good and bad. She does have a few like bipolar moments where she constantly flips between like being nice and being an asshole, or being nice and kind of being like, what's the word for it? Like backhanded, or just like passive aggressive. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. So her mood kind of changes a lot, and for some reason, whenever she's at the end, she doesn't just like shoot Michael, or not Michael, Afton. And then he stabs her for some reason. Now, I understand that you're dad, but like, you literally know this dude killed kids, like, and he's trying to kill another one, and you're gonna stand there and let it happen? Like, you idiot, just shoot him already. He wasn't even wearing a helmet. That was an easy headshot, and she didn't do anything. But I kind of felt she was mostly pointless. She basically just served as exposition in the movie, but I don't think she was like really bad. I wasn't paying too much attention to her, to be honest with you, but so it does turn out that she's William's daughter, and I think that's pretty interesting. So Michael isn't related to Afton, or so far. Probably maybe in the next sequel they'll, you know, make that a thing, but it is Vanessa that's related to Afton in this movie. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I think that was an interesting twist right there. Wait, I mean, I kind of figured that out. Like, you know that she's kind of related to everything just by how much she knows and stuff. So it wasn't like a oh my god twist. It was just kind of like oh kind of twist. But I did appreciate it. So the next thing I have here is no puppet, and this is going into that secret animatronic. Whenever you hear secret animatronic, you immediately think puppet, and it's not the puppet. Like, he's not in this movie. Kind of, mostly. He is teased at the end of the movie because his theme does play, and if you guys remember the FNAF 2 minigames that talk to you, the S-A-V-E, that was the puppet talking to you, and that plays at the end of the credits, and I think it says come find me or something. So he is teased at the end of the credits, but he's not actually in the movie for some reason, but I thought it was really odd. So either he did put the children in the suits like in the games, or it was Afton that put the children in the suits. I'm not really sure which one they're going for here, but either way, it's kind of odd that he's not in the movie. Alright, so the next thing I have here is Golden Freddy, and this is by far, like, I would say William Afton was my least favorite part of the movie. But I love Golden Freddy, so I gotta say Golden Freddy is definitely my least favorite part of this movie. Definitely the most disappointing part of this movie. He's trash. And I'm not joking about this when I say this stuff, by the way. Like, this isn't a joke. So, he quite literally spawns in at Michael's house, potentially kills someone, probably does, and then he takes Abby to the pizzeria, and then he disappears. I'm not joking. It's like, why is he in the movie? He gets like 2 minutes of screen time, and the movie can't even decide on if he actually exists or not, because okay, so first of all, he spawns in, which is not something that actually exists can do, but he does attack someone. I'm not sure if he kills her, but he does attack someone, and you know, you can't do that if you don't exist. But then he teleports around like he doesn't exist. And then Corey Kenshin's cameo, he's a cab driver, and Golden Freddy gets in the back, and Corey sees him, and the car also reacts like Golden Freddy's getting in the car. So obviously he must exist, but how does that explain the spawning in and then him teleporting around? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Does he exist or does he not? And then whenever Abby actually gets to the pizzeria, he just disappears. Completely never seen again in the rest of the movie. Dumb as shit. I fucking hate him. Really wish he was in the movie. It was stupid, but anyways, moving on. Oh, not moving on. His design is trash. I ain't gonna lie. They basically just took Freddy, painted him slightly like a dark yellow, nasty mustard color. He's not even golden like he is in the games. He's just slightly darker or something than Freddy, like a slightly different tint. And then they damage his one eye and his one ear. Like, why even give him damage if you're just gonna make it the one eye and the one ear? That's hardly anything. Just make him fresh, or actually beat him up, you know, like he looks in FNAF 2 or whatever. So, anyways, he was super disappointing for me. Next thing is, there's no real uncanny valley with the animatronics. This is definitely something I noticed. So the movie swapping back and forth between like the kids and the animatronics, or I guess is the best description I have for it. It's either they're kids or they're animatronics, either kids or killer robots, and there's no real in between like there is in the games. And you know, that's why they were so scary. Like in the first game specifically, I'm not sure if they were possessed in the second game, but I know the first game specifically, what made them scary was the uncanny valley. Like, they acted like robots, but kids at the same time. Like, them, like Bonnie and Chico looking directly at the camera, you know? It's like, it's a game to them, you know? When Bonnie and Chico get in your office and you have the camera up, they make that noise behind the camera. They spaz their heads out like robots, you know? Just the way they move on the cameras looks like robots. Their predetermined paths look like robots. But another thing is the AI. And you know, whoops, I hit the mic, sorry. But you know, the AI, like them getting more aggressive as the nights progress. It's like they're playing with you at the start, and then once you get to night 4 or 5, like they're not playing with you anymore and they actually want to kill you. So it's like it starts off as a game and then they get serious, like they actually want to hurt you. And that fits like the childish like attitude of just playing around with your food, you know, whatever. So there's none of that in the movie. Like, it's either child or killer robot, and they don't have that playing with you either. Like playing with you and then getting to kill you. Like, the animatronics in this movie are either full clowns and not really doing anything, or straight killer mode and they don't give you any chance of survival. It's either one of the two. There is no natural progression into more, you know, getting them more aggressive later as the movie progresses. Like, they either kill you or they just play around. And there's no in between for them being kids or animatronics. So I do miss that uncanny valley from the first movie, and I do wish it was in this movie. So the next thing is no Toreador March. I think that's how you pronounce it. You know, the little do and the Freddy does whenever you run out of power in the first game. I was really expecting that to be in this movie. Maybe it was actually, but I didn't hear it. Not even in the credits, which I thought that's when they would play it, but I didn't hear it at all. So it was kind of missing. Kind of an odd thing to complain about, I know, but I do miss it. Next thing is barely any camera usage. And they do show the cameras like a few times near the start-ish. Not near the start, but like, well, actually in the opening scene I mentioned earlier, I'm pretty sure they do use it. But it's more like once you get introduced to it, like close to when you get introduced to it, the office, they use the cameras more then, but the cameras like never used in the later nights, which is kind of odd, you know. That's the whole gimmick of the games, is checking the cameras, and the cameras hardly get used, so I thought that was a bit odd. So the spring lock scene is something I want to mention. And I guess this kind of goes in with the gore in the movie, but it wasn't really super violent or gory, I guess. It's basically like the cupcake bites him. What the hell was that? So the cupcake bites him, and then the spring locks fail, obviously, and then he dies. But it's not like super violent. You just kind of see, it's like getting stabbed with prongs, I guess, or something. Like he's like casually getting stabbed, but he's not really reacting to it. Like you would think the spring lock failure would be one of the most violent things you can ever see in a movie, and it would be like haunting to little kids and really anyone that's watching the movie. But he just casually gets spring locked and then shakes around a little bit. It's pretty disappointing, I'm not gonna lie. I was really expecting a lot more. I was expecting some screaming, you know, blood flying everywhere, but I guess I can't do that. It's gotta be a kid's movie, you know. So on the topic of the cupcake and one-shotting him, the cupcake does the most work out of any of the animatronics, which is pretty odd. You wouldn't even think, you would think that the cupcake would be used only for like scares. Like, so there's one scene where some guys are breaking in. I'll talk about it later, but they're breaking in, and one of the guys opens up this like freezer, and the cupcake is there, and then he turns around and turns it back around, and it's gone. And you would think the cupcake would just be used for that, like just kind of playing with people. But no, the cupcake is a killer in this movie. Like, he's killing everybody. he's got the highest KD ratio in the movie. He does the most work, which I thought was pretty odd. And I think it's odd that he's the one that kills Afton, but whatever. I mean, you know, he's not even possessed. Like, he's not even a soul. He's just a killer cupcake for some reason that they made. But I think it was definitely an odd choice to have him doing the most work. And another thing related to Golden Freddy attacking that one. So the custody battle I mentioned is with the aunt and Michael's little sister, and basically he's trying to fight custody over Abby from the aunt, and she's definitely and I can't speak. She's definitely an antagonistic force in this movie. But Golden Freddy spawns in and attacks her, and it looks like she dies. She's definitely laid out, and they don't show you the body, so it must mean it's really bad. But they never mention it in the aftermath, like the epilogue of the movie. They never talk about if she's around or not, if she's dead or alive, you know. Then they just bring her up beyond her getting assaulted by this giant animatronic that spawns in the house for some reason. So I thought that was pretty odd that they just never mention her behind her getting assaulted. So another thing I do have is an over-reliance on Foxy and chases. And this is probably going to sound stupid because you would think that Foxy would be the main guy in chases and you want to see him chase people, but I just think like pretty much every chase in this movie is with Foxy, and none of the other animatronics get like chases. They're just kind of teleport around or just casually kill people. But Foxy's the only one that gets the chases and the really like more stressful moments, I guess. So I thought that was kind of odd that they don't really spread it out equally across characters. It's just basically Foxy doing all the creepy stuff and the chasing. So speaking of Foxy and chases, they did have him chase Michael one time, and they set up a hallway run. And you know, you want to see Foxy run down the hallway. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you, the hallway run is probably the only reason Foxy was ever popular. Like, his design is alright, his mechanic is annoying, and his jump scare is trash. You know, talking about the first game here. So him running down the hallway is like the only reason he was popular, in my opinion. And you don't even get to see him run down the hallway in this movie. So they have Michael like trying to open the door, and they have Foxy at the end of the hallway, and he's like, you know, I just took a doo-doo, yeah. But they don't show you him actually running. Like, basically, he does that really cheap jump scare thing where he just like teleports in front of the camera and screams really loud, and it's pretty dumb. They should have just showed him actually running down the hallway, and they do have him running down the hallway from his perspective, I think at the start of the movie. But it's from his perspective, you don't actually get to see him. They never actually show you him actually running down the hallway, which is really disappointing. So I wish they did show that. Alright, so on to some more positives here. So Michael again. he's such a W. Gotta mention him twice, but I can really talk about his interactions with Vanessa and stuff, and his relationship with Abby, and yeah, he was just a really cool character. Like so the movie starts off with him assaulting this guy. or the movie doesn't start off with it, but it's like his character introduction was like waking up and working out and stuff. But like once he gets to his job, he's working security at some other place, a mall or something, and he assaults some guy because this guy was like aggressively grabbing his kid or whatever. So he just thought that he was kidnapping this kid, which kind of, I guess it was pretty reasonable. But you find out later the reason why he thought that is because, you know, Garrett got kidnapped and everything, and you know he's fairly against that, kidnapping kids, obviously. So, but after he screws up and he beats that guy, somehow he doesn't go to jail, but he just gets the night job at Freddy's, and then yada yada yada. So, it doesn't feel forced, but I mean, I guess you can kind of find fault. It does kind of happen pretty fast, but other than that, I don't really have a problem with it. But then he's working the job. Like I said, he does do some stupid things like falling asleep on the job in this creepy building. But his goal was basically to find out, like, go to his dreams and get help from the dead kids over who killed his brother, who kidnapped his brother. And I just really like it's an actual reason for him to keep going back to the building, because the reason, like, the main kind of thing here is like, why would you keep going back if they're killing you or trying to kill you? Why would you stay beyond the first night? So it does give him a reason to keep going back. His relationship with Vanessa was interesting. His relationship with Abby was really well done. I'll talk about that later. I think it's nice that he has beef, personal beef with William Afton. It's not just like some guy he doesn't know that he has beef with, you know. So it wasn't like they don't really have any conflict between each other. Like, you know, that's the dude that kidnapped his brother and killed him. So, you know, they have beef. So I do appreciate that. Overall, he was just a really cool character, pretty realistic. There was one time where the one scene where the animatronics were goofing around and like playing with Abby, and he was like losing his mind. Yeah. Like, you see that and you're like, holy shit. So I do appreciate he was like a more grounded in reality kind of character in this goofy, wacky movie, you know? So I do appreciate him. Very cool character. Like I said, favorite part of the movie. So the next thing I have here is Abby. Really thought she was a cool character. Now, I had a very abusive and not pleasant relationship with someone, or not relationship, interaction, I guess you could say, relationship with someone. Post relationship, I should say, interaction with someone named Abby fairly recently. So, you know, I hear Abby and I start having PTSD, you know, non-flashbacks. I'm sitting in that theater. Anytime Michael says her name or her name is brought up, I'm just like, no. But once I got out with the PTSD, I actually appreciate her character. And she's a pretty solid character. You know, kid characters, they gotta like ride the line between being annoying, or not being annoying, but being childish. But, you know, they can't be too intelligent, because then they won't be kids. But you can't make them too childish and annoying, because then they're just gonna be annoying. So I think she does ride the line well of being childish and innocent enough, while also being not stupid and, you know, not annoying, to be likable. So I do like her character. I do like her relationship with Michael. I think it's a really nice sibling relationship. They definitely do care about each other, but it's in that sibling way where they're kind of like bullying each other, you know, kind of being assholes. But I do really like their relationship. And there was one time at the end of the movie where Michael just like squares up with animatronics to save Abby, and it's pretty fire. I've always wanted to see people fight back against these robots, because I think they're pretty weak. But, you know, he finally actually does it, and I love that scene. So another thing I have here is the build up to the animatronics. I do think it was fairly well handled. They do actually show you endoskeletons, and in the training tape, they show you the endoskeleton. And they show you like the opening scene with Foxy chasing the one guard, and but they don't actually show you. They just show you like POV shots and shadows and stuff before they actually show the actual animatronics, which is really cool. And I think the build up to the seeing the actual animatronics was fairly well handled. So It does take a while to see them, but once you actually see them, they do stay on screen for a while, you know, like they're in the movie for, you know, a good amount after they're finally shown. And they do have the one scene, which I'll talk about in a second here, but they just go crazy killing some people and it's amazing. But I think the build up to animatronics was handled pretty well. It wasn't like they showed you them right at the start and wasn't like they waited too long to show you either. So I think it's pretty well handled. So, like I just mentioned, the one where they go killing everybody. So basically, these guys break into the establishment trying to get Mike fired from, you know, being the security guard. And the animatronics just slaughter all of them. It's amazing. So, it really has you rooting for them, you know. But, so, the cupcake, like, bites this dude's face off. And then this other guy gets his face beat into this door or something. And then, like, he hides in this closet, and then Michael or Bonnie is just like there and kills him. It's off screen, that one, but I still like it. The other guy, I'm not sure how I don't remember how the other guy is killed. It was like the main leader, but this other chick that was actually working with Michael, but she was double crossing him, you know, backstabbing him. The coolest kill in the movie by far. So she goes, what was it, like a basement or something? And she sees Freddy sitting there. And basically the spirit of Freddy lured her in. And then she gets up on this like stool or chair and is looking into Freddy's mouth. And the hand of the child comes out and grabs her and pulls her into Freddy's mouth. And then you see the shadow on the wall. He closes his mouth and bites her completely in half. And it is insane. Like, you would not expect that from a Five Nights at Freddy's movie. And I mean, it's not realistic because, you know, an animatronic is gonna have the bite force to do that. But still, coolest kill in the movie. I love it. It was amazing. You know, not realistic, but I loved it. You know, when we saw that, the whole theater was just like, oh! So, really cool kill. I loved it. That scene, just watching them go ham on some people that deserve to get killed. Amazing. So another thing I have to talk about is Balloon Boy. And I was really worried about him being in this movie because, you know, Balloon Boy is annoying. You just want to punch him, you know. So thank God he's not an animatronic. He's like this little doll thing. And I think they do have him be sentient because he does kind of teleport around and stuff and just be creepy in general. But he doesn't say anything. And I was really worried that he was gonna, you know, if I was in the theater and I heard that hi or hello, bro, I was gonna lose it. I was gonna start screaming, you motherfucker, I will kill this kid. But you know, the Balloon Boy makes, you know, turns you into William Afton, makes you want to kill kids. But but he wasn't annoying. He wasn't an animatronic. He was like this little doll thing. So I really appreciate that. They didn't make him an annoying little shit in this movie like he was in Five Nights at Freddy's 2. So another thing I have here is the goofy scenes. They really do embrace the goofiness of Five Nights at Freddy's, but it's something I appreciate. You know, Five Nights at Freddy's is goofy. It's not grounded, you know, it's about kids haunting animatronics. So, you know, the movie is going to be goofy, as is the games. And I think they really approached that well. They didn't take the movie too seriously, but they didn't make it a goof fest either. But I did appreciate the goofy scenes. They have one where the animatronics build a fort with Abby and Michael and Vanessa. But you hear that and you think it's stupid. And you're watching it and you're like, bro, this is stupid. But I appreciate the stupidness. Like, it kind of... It really reminds you that this series is stupid, you know. It's not something to be taken seriously. So I do appreciate that they like embrace the goofiness of Five Nights at Freddy's in this movie. There's a few other goofy scenes in it too, but just the one where they're building a fort is by far like the goofiest thing. And Bonnie like falls over, and Abby's like, "Oh, are you okay?" And he like gives like the thumbs up, the Terminator thumbs up. So I do appreciate that. It was a really like. It was just appropriate, I guess, like handling it in a way where it's not too serious but not too goofy. So the final thing I have here is, I think it was pretty faithful representation of the games. It wasn't, like I said, it wasn't just the same copy and pasted story. It does tell like its own remix story. And like I just mentioned with the goofiness, it doesn't take itself too seriously. It doesn't take itself, you know, as a goofy minded movie either. It's like more in between. I do think it's a faithful like recreation of Five Nights at Freddy's, and I do think it is a movie for Five Nights at Freddy's fans, obviously, but it does do well as a Five Nights at Freddy's movie. And just, you know, having the fan service and things that Five Nights at Freddy's fans want to see in a movie. And obviously, you know, Afton was disappointing, Golden Freddy was disappointing, but other than that, like, the movie does deliver on what you want to see. You want to see the animatronics, and you do get to see the animatronics. You want to see them kill people. You want to see, you know, the night guard getting terrorized, but you do get to see that. Like, it's a fairly well made movie, and I do think it delivers on that Five Nights at Freddy's and just being stuck in a building with these animatronics. And I do wish they kind of centered around that more, of being stuck in a building with these robots. But overall, I do really appreciate what they did with this movie. I do think it was a solid movie, and it's definitely a movie for Five Nights at Freddy's fans. I do love it. So, well, not love it, but you know, it is a fairly good movie. Definitely wasn't bad, which, you know, once again, hurts to say because I wanted to hate this movie. Certified hater, but overall, a fairly good movie. I did like it. I do think, I think Five Nights at Freddy's fans are going to watch this movie anyway, but if you're on the fence, I definitely think you should go watch this movie. If you're a Five Nights at Freddy's fan and you know about the games, go check it out. You know, I think it's worth it. Anyways, that's me. I gotta go play some Call of Duty for some background footage now, which I'm not looking forward to. But that's all I have for this video. I apologize for me slurring words and stuff. Like I said, I didn't have a script for this. I was just ranting, basically. But thank you for watching. Take care. Have a good day.